Are you nervous at all?
No. Oh.
I'm going to confess I am.
Aw. You're doing good. You're doing good.
Actually, the first time I showed under you, I was nervous. I was intimidated.
Yeah,
I was because just your knowledge about odor theory and being a great judge and a great competitor really kind of preceded you.
Aw, thanks.
So my name's Scott Singpill. I'm Murphy's dad. I'm a scent work competitor. And today on Alert, a scent work podcast, is Aleks, Woodrofe, Tana, and George's mom. Is that right?
Yeah, those are my two.
Yeah. She's a scent work judge, competitor, trainer, AKC, ASCA, NASCW, president of the Copper State Scent Work Club. You can also hear her on the K9 Scent Fix podcast, and she does so much more too. But I want to know, so like that first time I showed under you, I was nervous. And then I showed under you not too long ago. The first time it was an advanced run. The last time it was detective runs. And I was a lot more relaxed because I've just come to learn just how cool you are. Like you just have this approachable, curious, passionate energy about scent work that's just really inspiring. I don't feel any judginess at all.
Good.
Or any of that sort of stuff. So, I mean, and plus you're engaged in it in so many ways. Where did your passion for this sport come from?
Oh, isn't that a weird question? So
how's that a weird question?
I don't know.
Why do we do the things we do,
Yeah. So I don't think it's normally a linear passion for most people coming into this sport. And I think it's because we don't have, or it's kind of a newer sport, any role models or like examples other than maybe professional detection dogs, which I think before maybe 5 years ago really weren't even on TV. You would just every once in a while see like on Cops and there's a dog that shows up for a little bit and then it disappears. So I think I grew up in Canada on a horse farm. So I grew up listening to my mom coach dressage level horses and teams. And so that was kind of in my head of what kind of relationship with animals was always, so that they were always a teammate and we're trying to get the best performance possible as a team, right? You can't just tell them to do something. And then when I moved down to Arizona, I did agility. I had a soft or flat coat and a reactive dog. And when my reactive dog showed up to be a little bit more anxious than possible to do agility very well, I started nose work as something to do because people told me I should. And then I started online because there wasn't really anything available here. Once in a while, an in-person class in town, but that was it. And so I started online, and with Sam, she liked it. She was okay. She figured it out. We were learning together. But my flat coat at the time was like, this is bomb. This is great. I love this. And so when I start seeing her having so much fun, it created a little bit more joy and enthusiasm for it for myself. And I ended up getting her ORT for both of them. And I did my NW1 with Rosie, and like still no in-person teaching up here. There was one instructor that was sort of giving classes every once in a while. And I never really was able to get over there because I was doing agility pretty much full time. And so I got my NW1 and I'm like, I could have done so much better in some of these classes. Like I started looking at what we did and where we ended up. I was think at 8th overall or something. I'm like, I could do this. This is fun. And I was just getting a puppy at the time. And so that was Tana. And so Tana learned from day one. She was supposed to be my agility dog, but we very quickly slipped into nose work as being her sport, my sport. She didn't love agility. She was trained for agility. She really did well, but she didn't love it. So we did something that really connected with her, and she dragged me along. I learned tons. She learned ton. And it gave me the confidence because she was good at it to go seek out information elsewhere, seminars and places like that I wouldn't ever think about traveling. If you asked me when I was doing agility, would you travel to do dog sports? I'd be like, no way. Why would I travel, spend money for a hotel? And then when I had a dog that was actually pretty good at the sport, I felt like I could go somewhere and feel like I achieved something and meet new friends and have that confidence. And she just dragged me along, and whole new world. Holy crap, a whole new world.
Your story resonates with me. I was reflecting on my story. So I started in 2023, and it started when I realized my dog needed some intellectual stimulation, and I stumbled across scent work, and he was just kind of good at it, like, right. And it just became very, very addicting, and I didn't want to let him down. Like I kind of like you, I reflected on, I don't want to ever say, what if I would have learned more or worked at this harder? And I think that's kind of how I got sucked in. And then the community part that you talk about is another huge part for me. I love I love the friendly competition. I love talking about, the theory with people, and I just love hanging out with people. So I think we have similar stories there as to why we're so passionate about it. Yeah.
The community is interesting for scent work, and I think it's a little bit different, maybe because we don't really watch each other compete. And so we can connect on such a different non-judgy level. Because I find like so a lot of other sports, you watch each other and then you feel like they do better and you feel envious or jealous. And it's emotions that we have, but that can flavor how you interact with other people versus when you don't really get to watch each other work, all you have is that relationship in the parking lot and the friends that we make and the conversations that you have because you just happen to park next to somebody. I think it creates a different game. It creates a different kind of relationship within the community than some other sports, which is good. I think it's not a bad thing. I think it's a very good thing.
I
Yeah.
do actually watch a lot of other competitors, and I know early on I'm going to say something that makes me sound like a horrible person, but hopefully I'll redeem myself by the end of my sentence. I was kind of that judgy person, right? I would kind of be like, well, they're not that good or whatever. And as I started moving through this and getting more experience, one of the things I love about scent work is the fact that it's so broad and you can do it for the reasons you want to do it. And when I started learning those stories of people in the parking lot, my dog was reactive and I couldn't take him out into public at all. And scent work provided my dog with confidence. And now we can come to these strange locations and they can perform well. Like, that amazes me and it puts everybody into context. And we're all at a different point in our journey and we can all invest, we all invest different amounts of time and it means different things to us. So that really kind of got me over that judgy thing, right? Now I
Yeah.
celebrate everybody that crosses that start line. When it comes to competing, you're very successful with your dog Tana. Your students also do well. I've seen some posts where they do well. So I want to really, pull from some of your knowledge here. What is something that you could tell us that's helped both you and your students improve?
A big one is learning to read the dog. And like when I do seminars, that's like the number one topic that keeps getting asked. Like, can we add just read the dog? Read the dog better. That's always the number one thing. And it's true because the more that we can read the dog, meaning we can recognize changes of behavior that are associated with odor, the target odor we're trying to find, the easier it is to understand what's happening. And if you understand what's happening and that you know that they're working, you're more likely to support them versus trying to take over. So I think that's the number one thing is getting better at reading your dog. So then how do you do that? Watching videos is going to be a big one. So being able to piece it apart, know where the hides are, watch when the dog changes direction, speed, their head, and start associating and kind of drawing that on a picture to try and figure out what that odor picture might look like and how your dog is communicating that to you. Then we can start becoming a little bit more honest with our handling to be able to follow the direction and face the odor and to let them kind of lead us to that location.
Reading your dog is so critically important. And as a novice, that was not even something I realized that had to happen because, it was all about telling your dog to find it and then getting that final response, right? And a lot of us as beginners even will belabor that final response because we can't read our dog. We want them to tell us everything. I was talking to one of the guests on this podcast was Hallie McMullen. She's another judge. And she gave some great advice, I thought, which was when you're a novice, start that process of watching and observing what your dog does, which can be really hard because you're nervous about being a novice. You're nervous about doing the search. But I thought, wow, if I could go back and take that piece of advice, that would be pretty valuable. So you agree, reading the dog is just really a crucial skill.
Yeah. If I can watch with the purpose of trying to understand odor pictures versus watching my dog for confirmation of where the hide is. And so the difference in that is if I'm really taking in the information, I'm trying to see where do they change direction? Kind of, can I put cones in those locations after they search one hide? And then where are they dropping? Where are they speeding up? Where are those beelines? They go straight into a source. So if I can start watching for those locations, I don't care about the hide, which is so hard as a novice person to be told. The hide doesn't matter. Your dog can find the hide. Your job is to watch the rest of it. Oh, that's hard. But that's where all the information is. Versus if I'm just waiting for confirmation, I'm going to stand near the chair where the hide is, wait for my dog to get over it, wait for their nose to go underneath, and then I'm going to reward my dog. Right. And so I'm just waiting for the confirmation they find it. So it's a little bit of a different observation. Like, what are you doing out there? Are you just waiting or are you watching?
Yeah. A valuable part of my learning experience was observing other teams. After I run, go back in and then, be able to watch other dogs and you could start to see those things. Do you find a lot of people watch? I don't. I feel like I'm kind of like one of the few, like first of all, you can volunteer, you can time, you can be a judge's steward, that sort of stuff. Sometimes if you're a gate steward, you can kind of peek around the corner and see what's going on. Or you could just watch, right? Like a lot of people don't take advantage of that though, I don't feel. Is it a little different in Arizona where you are?
No, and I found that throughout that not very many people will watch. Detective seems to pull in people to watch, especially if you've run before. But in general, yeah, there's not a lot of spectating, which is unfortunate because that's where information is. But I do find that people start watching, even when they're watching like that, for confirmation. Oh, that's what they look like on the hide
Okay.
versus really watching the rest of the odor information, which gets to be pretty cool. But I think you need somebody with knowledge kind of interpreting, especially if you're a newer person, what are you seeing? Because if you are watching it and you don't really know why the dog changes direction, especially because the handlers are overhandling and things like that, that you might miss out on some good information. And that's where like judge's steward or timer are great volunteer positions because you're stuck with your judge. So your judge is developing a relationship with you, but they can't keep their mouth shut. So they're going to whisper to somebody, and that somebody is normally the volunteer, right?
That's so
So
funny. That's what I said too. That's what I've told my wife before. It's like if I go in and sit with the judge, I know if I just sit there quietly and respectfully that eventually they're going to start talking to me.
they can't keep their mouth shut, and it doesn't matter what venue. And NACSW does allow spectators. You do have to sign your waiver, but same thing. If you stick around with the same judge all day, you will start to kind of get to know them, and we can't keep our mouth shut because we have to tell somebody, did you see that turn? Or why are they pulling their dog off? I find myself when I'm judging, my mouth might be behind a clipboard, but I'm going, call it, call it, call it. No, you're pushing your dog off. Just wait, just wait. Yeah. And so that kind of feedback, if you're hearing that as a volunteer or a spectator, because you're allowed to stand near the judge, depends on how the search is set up, you might be getting a lot of great information on how you might handle a search and where that odor information is going.
When you're setting up a search, how would you describe your approach when you're setting those hides across? And let's talk across levels.
So something that, because I'm becoming an NACSW certified official, which means setting hides for NACSW trials. And AKC, I set hides for AKC and ASCA, the Australian Shepherd Club. And so in all these situations, you want to be setting for the level. What skills are you setting? I should have a purpose. Like, what am I putting out there as hide placement? I'm thinking about the environment itself. What kind of pressures are the environment going to place on my odor information in the hides? How available are they? And then the specific hide set itself. So am I putting it where the dog can have a really nice, clean hit? So the dog finds the hide and knows exactly where they should be to find that alert, right? The behavior, where to start that. So if I place an example, a simple metal foldable chair, I think everybody can envision something like that, right? Very easy, right?
Right.
So I have multiple levels that I can set on that one single chair. If I want a novice, so let's just do AKC, novice hide in a search area, my hide would be probably front corner, whether it's left or right, might depend on the airflow. And that hide is going to be in a corner, so it's nice and contained in that corner. It's going to be up underneath. Hopefully it's not just a flat metal underneath. Maybe it's got a little lip or something. And I can set my hide in there so a dog can't get their teeth on it and pull it off. But that hide becomes very clear on where the dog can alert from that location. Now, if I take that exact same chair and I want it for advanced level, so now this is the next level up, hide placements aren't significantly different, but if I wanted to add just a little bit of challenge, maybe it's on the side of the chair near a bracket, or maybe the very center of the front of the chair. So it asks for just a little bit more sourcing, but it's still very available to the dog itself, meaning as the dog comes to the chair, the odor information is sitting there and they can grab that information. Now, what if we do excellent level? Taking aside anything else I can do with other hides, if we're just talking about that one hide, I can put it on the back of the seat of the chair. So now I'm asking for it to be a little bit deeper. Can the dog recognize where that odor is coming from and alert correctly, saying it's under the seat of this chair? Especially if it's up against a wall, that becomes a little even more difficult. I probably will want more than one side of that chair available to the dog so that they're able to come around it and understand that odor picture and not just get lost in pooling odor behind it. So that same little chair. And then what if I want to make it really difficult for masters or detective? I could put it on the back of the chair. So like where your back rests when you sit on a chair. And I can place that against a wall. And those hides can be near impossible. I want to make sure that they are able to track it back. But because now it's above the dog's nose level, it creates a very different picture. So we can have the same metal chair with varying levels. And depending on where we place it, how available is it, how much airflow is around it, how much is it in the dog's normal path? Because you don't want to set a hide so out of their natural path and odor's not available. And then it just becomes a hide that isn't found. And in AKC, that just doesn't work. You have a zero Q rate then. So all hides need to be findable in AKC versus some other venues, so like NACSW Elite. If a hide it disappears, there is a little wiggle room within how the rules are written for those hide placements versus AKC. A zero hide placement is pretty brutal. Especially I judge out in California, and some of those are the biggest trials that we've ever had in the country. And so if I have a surge, I think I had 46 dogs this past weekend for masters only on Saturday. So if I have a hide that disappeared, that is 6 hours of judging where I just feel terrible all day long. And
Right.
that's not fun, right? So you need to make sure you
No.
can create a challenge that's fun to work with odor available
Oh,
that is level appropriate. It's not just disappeared hides and you get luck that it shows up, right?
man, I never thought of that like at a trial where maybe you got 6, 7 dogs at the master level, if you don't have something that's accessible, that's one thing, right? You feel kind of badly about it, but
Oh, yeah.
40 or 50 dogs, that is a day of just
Miserable. And you
why
can't change it. You could rerun if you caught it early. If you're like 3 dogs in, you're like, this is not working. And that's where you really have to trust a demo dog. The demo dog runs and they go, this is kind of hard. So this weekend, total, like I had 2 hides that were above nose level. They were not crazy hide placements. One was on the back of a bench on the top, but it had a nice picture for the odor to move around. But same level, about 20 feet away along a wall, was in a hinge. And when the demo dog was working it, he was showing me a lot of converging odor above his head. And I could have left it. It is a master level problem. The dog probably would solve it, but it wasn't the challenge I wanted for that weekend. And it wasn't a challenge I wanted to trust for 6 hours, 7 hours of judging. And so I ended up adjusting both hides to make a cleaner problem so that they could work it out. And my Q rate was still quite high, but that was kind of what I was going for this weekend. And yeah, it became much easier for the dogs to work out. Now, I could, because I know if it's going to sit there for an hour or 2 hours before the dog works it, it's going to become a different problem. But also, if it's going to sit for 6 hours, my sun has moved, my breezes might change. And now I want to set for the worst case scenario. What is this going to look like if they're both high now for the demo dog to work? What happens in 6 hours and I get a little sun hitting that wall? Is it just going to rise completely and disappear? So set my hides where I wanted them. And I was very happy with the search. I think it worked very, very well. There was nice blank areas for them to work through. It was a nice master search.
Thank you so much for describing just that process. That I think sometimes us as competitors can think that you're just slapping hides out there, right? You're just putting hides out in the room for us to find. But I think you just really illustrate how much thought goes into it, and also how much thought that you put into it from a competitor's point of view. You're trying to create something for the competitors. It's enjoyable, but yet challenging.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you balance that? I mean,
I don't think that as a competitor, it needs to be easy to be fun. You just need to have odor available to be able to work. I think people feel slighted or unjust when their dog showed no changes of behavior for a hide in the space, and or they hit really hard because of odor information on a different location than where the hide was placed. And so then that becomes where we as competitors feel like it wasn't fair. And sometimes that is preventable because of the hide placement. Maybe we had to think about where that odor might be channeling. Like maybe it's just shooting across to a location because of the conditions in the space. And a slight adjustment of moving a chair 5 feet or 3 feet might have avoided that whole situation, right? So little things like that. And that's learned through experience. Setting those hides, experiencing them, writing down your learning moments. For the first 2 years of judging, every single hide, I wrote down what I might have done better. Every search, how could I adjust that one? Every time I have a search that I don't love, I'm always analyzing every single hide. What could I have done better? I had a detective search right before Christmas. And it's too bad because the search was really cool. And everybody who searched it, when they knew where the hides were, like, I could have done that. But I think before Christmas, everybody was a little mentally fatigued. They had done, it was the setup of the trial, 6 detectives. So this was the very last of 6 detective searches over a weekend, or it was Wednesday and Saturday, Sunday. And by the time they got to mine, nobody had a brain. The dogs were working and the handlers just were not seeing it. They were not picking it up. And the dogs were working really nice. So I looked at every hide. What could I have done differently? And I would have made tiny little changes here and there. But significantly, the search was a fun search. The search was a cool one. And it wasn't that any hide wasn't available. It was just that it was kind of bad luck of the situation. And it shouldn't be like that I would have a 0 pass rate, but it was what happened that weekend.
Yeah, it's something completely out of your control.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Sometimes that happens when you get those. And let me tell you, so as you know, as a competitor, the parking lot chatter, right? Like when we see a round that has 0 cues, it can be very easy to blame the judge, right?
For sure. Yeah.
But that's not always the case. A lot of times it could be, I mean, you have to get more details. I remember I was at a search and we had a 0 Q rate, and I thought it was because of a particular hide that we didn't find, but that wasn't it. It was the first room was blank, and for whatever reason, very few people made it through that first blank room. And if there's no odor, like how could that be the judge's fault, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And it's just making that choice, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so we learned quickly that just because you see a no cue doesn't mean that there was something wrong with the hide, which is easy to default to in the
It
parking lot.
is. It is. So there is an AKC, what is it? AKC Judges Debrief Facebook page. And it is, and that's where I put that detective search, because it was almost like, oh, well, the people there were telling me, you should post this. You should put it on there. It's a fun search. Other people should see it. We'd love to hear their responses, right? And so I posted on there, and it's one of those things you sheepishly do it. Like, it wasn't a great Q rate, and it was interesting. A lot of people are like, I wish I searched that one. That looks like fun. And that helps me as a judge know that, okay, it was what I thought it was, right? I'm not just in my head thinking something. But that Facebook group might be good if you've got some listeners that haven't seen that and want to see what to maybe expect. For some judges, not all judges post on there. There's only a few of us that do, realistically, for the broad spectrum of AKC judges out there. But you can kind of see what you might expect at different levels.
A little bit earlier when you're talking about your approach to setting hides, you mentioned what skills are you testing? Give me just kind of a laundry list of different skills that you think that people should be aware of, because I found, again, when I first started, this concept didn't even come to me. Like finding odor was the skill, right?
Yeah.
Not knowing that there's a whole invisible world of other skills that go beyond just finding odor, that go into handler skills and understanding odor skills and dog skills and all of it. So just give us a list, because I think that could really open people's minds as to what they should be paying attention to.
When it comes down to it, what skills are being tested, it really is in the rules or guidelines. So NECSW has in their rule book what skills are officially being tested. And AKC, they've got a judge's guideline that's available on their website, and that really spells it out. They do have some very clear different things that are on there. So some examples might be in the novice, it's can the dog identify odor, location, and communicate to the handler? That's it. That's all that's being tested. It's nothing fancy. It's not converging odor. It's nothing really. It's determining odor in a new space, a novel environment, but that's pretty much it. And then when we go to advanced, it's being able to do that twice, right? So moving from one hide to another, but not necessarily interaction between one hide and another. That's not being tested in advanced. They do ask us to limit convergence and have none if possible, right? So that's advanced. And then when you get into excellent, now we're talking about testing a little bit of converging odor skills, inaccessible skills, which typically at the excellent level are going to be introduction to that concept. You might have a hide in a drawer or a cabinet, but typically it's very clear where that location should be, or maybe a stack of chairs, a single stack of chairs. And then when we start moving up to the master level, we're going to be playing with elevation even more. So you've got a little bit of elevation in excellent level. It is 4 feet, which is elevated for the majority of dogs, and it's considered inaccessible. But that height really doesn't get pushed typically until we get to masters. And then when we get to masters, it's a height of 5 feet off the ground. But we also have convergence as a tested thing. You could have all 3 hides converging with each other, meaning their odor plumes are going to be overlapping, whether that's at a hide or away from the hide. And you also have inaccessibles. It can be deep inaccessibles, meaning it's not available from the surface. They have to go around and work a surface or an object. And we can also have testing handler skills. Can you leash handle? Can you manage complex environments? Can you read when your dog is done? That is tested when you have an unknown number of hides, like excellent interiors, where you have 1 or 2 hides in your first space. So you do have to call finish when you believe your dog is done. If you've only found 1, if you found 2, you call finish. In the master level, that gets tested even more so in all elements, right? And then when we get to detective, we are pushing all those skills. So there's no height limitations, there's no convergence limitations. It's just all the hides need to be judgeable, meaning I need to have clear yes zones for each one, meaning if the dog finds one hide and I say yes, it's not possibly also a yes for a different hide for a different dog, or the same dog if they came back working a hide from a different direction. So those hides need to be set with that distinction of my yes zone needs to be able to be clear enough that I am saying yes for a specific hide. When we're talking about the skills being tested, it's covering blank spaces. It's covering areas that are not productive. We're covering a lot of pooling odor. There's a lot of odor in AKC and it gets caught in different places, and reading that. And then we also have distractions at each level and purposeful distractions that are placed out there. And I do find some judges will put them out, and that is the skill being tested. They want to put a hide and 4 feet away a ball. The closest that a distractor can be placed to a hide is 12 inches, which is really not that far. But if it's like on a container, that container is not hot. But 4 feet away is still very, very close if you have a high level distraction next to a hide, right? And some judges like to test that. Some judges really don't think it's worth it or worth their time. And others are kind of in the middle. I think I'm in the middle.
I think it's obvious that you certainly care about the competitors. You want to give them the best experience possible. You stress out when you don't do that, right? Like, I think sometimes competitors can think, oh, the judges are out to get us, but I have found that not to be the case almost ever. But was there a time that a search that you set just went so sideways that it kind of became unforgettable? And how did you work around that?
Yeah. Recently I had during a detective search, and it was something I totally didn't expect, but the way that the room worked, and it was a library. It wasn't anything weird, but I had 3 hides that were lightly converging into one single point. And so once one dog false alert in this pile of books, it was the bottom shelf of a bookshelf on the very edge of the search area, I had all these other dogs hitting there. Now, it could be also that some human took the book home and had essential oils in their home, and maybe there was something extra, but it didn't show up until the last third of the day and the last like 10 dogs of the 30 dogs. So I don't know. It was one of those weird situations. And what am I going to do for different? I don't know. It wasn't there for the demo dog. It didn't show up for all the first dogs. And when I started really watching the odor pictures of how the dogs worked each hide and how wide they were starting to get towards that location where they were, and there's no hides near that space. I think the closest hide to that was probably 30, 40 feet away. And it was just how it was moving. And I think maybe even the movement of the dogs through the space created some of that. It was very strange, but I'm going to remember that one for a long time. And maybe if I'm around books, if I'm around things that are going home with unknown people, right, I might be a little more thoughtful and throw my dog on it a little bit more and that's the purpose of a demo dog, is to tell you that kind of information.
Could have also been, what is that effect called when one dog falses on something, they leave those feel-good pheromones behind, and then other dogs.
Yeah. And I find typically there's a little bit of trapping odor that usually will create that, or contamination. In addition to the cortisol levels.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap this up with the segment I call 7 questions. I'm going to ask you 7 questions just off the top of your head, whatever comes to mind, answer, and just real quick, 1-sentence answers. If I follow up, then you can expand on them. Number 1, when I'm judging beyond seeing competitors successful, I love it when
I get the thank you afterwards. If they had that fun, that joyful search. Yeah.
Let your judge know that you appreciated it. All right.
Even with a smile, that's enough.
Okay. What do you think competitors say about your searches?
That they're tough, but fun.
What's your dog's favorite reward after a great search? You personally?
Oh, which one? If it's Tana, definitely food. If it's George, he loves his toy. And a toy could be a water bottle.
He's easily amused. Huh?
Yes, easily. A shoe, a leash. It's all good.
What's one thing you wish competitors knew about being a judge?
That we are trying to cheer you on in our heads the whole time. We are making your calls for you. We are telling you to do it.
If a competitor has a bad day, or you have a bad day as a competitor, how do you process that? How do you get through that?
Appreciate your dog. They're doing it for us. And we all have bad days. And it's okay to have a bad day.
What's one thing judging's taught you about competing?
To have more patience and pay attention to the small little changes of behavior, especially at upper level competition.
Give us one piece of advice that you would give to your beginner self in scent work. What would that be?
Assume that the dog is working more often than assume that they're distracted.
Aleks, I want to hear, if I was competing under you and I called alert incorrectly, I want to hear, as you would say it in the round, what you would say to me.
No, I'm sorry. Your hide was over here.
Do you practice that, by the way, that empathetic?
No, it's learned from not saying it that much, but yeah, it's learned over time.
Yeah. And then the bonus question, do you have a signature distractor?
I have a ball that I really love, and it is flat on the bottom, so it doesn't roll. And it's just squishy enough that the dogs pick it up and it doesn't squeak. It is just the perfect ball. So yeah, I use it a lot.
And when they drop it, it doesn't roll away.
It doesn't. And I like that.
Got it.
Yep.
Aleks, this has been so much fun and insightful. Thank you so much for sharing all of your experience with us today. Any final thoughts you want to throw out there before we say goodbye?
Have fun with your dogs. I almost lost Tana last year this time, and I am taking every advantage that I get with her this year. And 2024 was the year of Tana. It was super fun. So take advantage of those times when you get it with your dog. Make those decisions to make sure that your trial experiences are worth the time and having fun with your dog, because that's the goal. The goal isn't the prizes. They're fun. They're great. But the goal is to have fun with our dogs.
I love that. A little bit of reflection as to, is this fun? Are we going places it's fun? Are we being entering trials that are fun? That's good. And appreciate every time you step up to that start line with that dog is just a blessing.
Exactly.
If you want to learn more about Aleks or connect with her, you can check out releasecanine.com. She has online classes and a blog there. If you want to up your scent work skills, I can personally speak for her odor theory seminar that she does in the summer. You can find her on Facebook at Release Canine, Instagram, Release Canine AZ for Arizona, no doubt. You can hear her monthly, I think, is when you do your episodes on the Canine Scent Fix podcast. Who's your host there? Her first name's Jill, but I can never pronounce her last name. I need to hear it. Kovacevic. All right. And if you've enjoyed this episode, don't forget to follow Alert on your favorite podcast platform and share it with your scent work friends. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you next time on Alert, a scent work podcast.